Welcome back to Bitcoin Generations. Thanks for tuning in. We got Logan today. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
Doing better than I deserve, man. That's for sure. It's been a great day. Uh, but yeah, just really happy to have you on. And you know, Logan and I kind of know each other a little bit, and we're both found out that we're Bitcoiners, and here we are. And so we're having good conversations about Bitcoin, and so we wanted to kind of bring you all into that conversation, and let kind of Logan tell you a little bit about himself. So, Logan, with that, let's just jump right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like Bodhi said, I'm a Bitcoiner, and I don't really know if I came here because I'm a straight Bitcoiner or because I learned my lessons in the past. But I definitely know that I found my path, and that's the most important part, right? Is that we find where we're headed and that we follow it. And so the past for me really is, I've been a filmmaker my whole life. Photography and video has been my career. And whether that's been telling other people's stories or telling my own story, or, just creating Bitcoin content, it has been something that has just driven me forward in my life. And that's ultimately what my past is my career, right? I think that there's a lot of things that lead you to Bitcoin, but ultimately I think all of those things, no matter which path it is, they all kind of connect together in kind of a harmonious way. But I think back to like how I got here, and the way that I actually got here to Bitcoin was kind of a sad story. Whenever I was running my photography studio, my main thing was backups. I wanted to make sure all my files were backed up and safe. And so I was running a NAS, a network attached storage, and that network attached storage was in a RAID configuration. And so that RAID was kind of a redundant backup of all my files. But one day I came into my studio and all my files had been locked. Everything was inaccessible, and none of my employees could work. It was a kind of a scary moment for me. And I thought, like, am I alone in this? And started like Googling immediately, like, how do I get hacked? Like, what does hacked mean? Like all this stuff. But I realized that I wasn't alone in this, and that the software, the system that I was using that was called QNAP, was part of a Q locker attack. And Q locker just meaning it had locked everyone's QNAP. QNAP was the hardware solution that my NAS was using.
Okay.
And this worldwide solution, this worldwide attack, was ransomware on my system. And okay. I had to pay Bitcoin in order to get my employees working again. I had to immediately learn, how do I buy it? How do I send it? How do I save it? Whatever it is, like, what do I do to get my files back? Because everything was locked down. So what brought me into Bitcoin was the fact that I needed it. I absolutely needed it in order to get my employees working again.
Okay.
So kind of a scary part. I know it's not something you and I talked about before this, before this podcast at all, but that's what brought me to Bitcoin. Was a kind of a scary moment where I was like, how do I get access to my stuff again?
Yeah.
And as soon as I got finished, I screen recorded the whole thing and had my employees help me like send the Bitcoin to be able to get my files back. I remember it was still $500 in Bitcoin that I had to buy and send it over and get the password. Luckily, they gave it to me. They were nice hackers. I don't want to say that word, but like, no ransomware is nice. Okay. And no, like looking back on it now, like, no, I shouldn't have paid the ransom to get like my stuff back, because you're incentivizing the person to do it again. But that's something I had to learn through. I had to take those steps to get there, because I had to get my employees working. I had files I had to deliver. I had videos I had to make. I had quotas I had to meet. And so the last thing on my mind was, oh, is this, a bad thing?
Right.
I was just thinking, get my employees working, get my stuff unlocked. I have to go to work.
This is a medium of exchange, and they wanted that. They wanted you to use that for that medium of exchange, and that worked in that difficult circumstance. And let me just point out real quick for the new people, because we like a lot of folks, hopefully in our audience is baby boomers and new Bitcoiners. They may not know some of the technical terms you put out there, but that's all kind of irrelevant here. The most important thing is that he worked through a difficult circumstance that was a hacker that he was able to, get taken care of. So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, basically, the organization or the entity that locked my files, they locked a lot of people's files all across the globe. And I watched videos of people running to their server to unplug it from the network to try and circumvent, being hacked or whatnot. But it was nothing I could avoid. I mean, it's very similar to like, someone gaining access to like Facebook's server and everyone's Facebook going down all at one time. Like it's not something that I could do to change. And there was actually a class action lawsuit against the server system, the QNAP that I was using, but it never came to fruition. There was very, a small number of people relatively that were affected by what I went through, but over 80% of the people ended up paying the hackers to be able to get access to their files. But that's what brought me to Bitcoin, was just that I had to have access to my stuff.
And Logan, what year was that?
That was
2021. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you hadn't really heard of Bitcoin before that?
Not really. No, I mean, I had heard about it in 2017. I think I bought it once and bought my wife a nice dinner with it. that was about the extent of what I knew of Bitcoin. But no, I had never really used it as a money. I had never thought other people wanted it. And I was just focused on running my company and, making contracts and getting employees. And, eventually, I had to, it was out of necessity that I had to learn about it and use it for the first time.
So that's an interesting, you don't hear stories like that very often, because, you were in business and then you got hacked and you had to use it to kind of, dig yourself out of that problem. So kind of like, how has your progression gone, and kind of like where, I mean, in our conversation, we've I was like, wow, this guy is very, very knowledgeable about this. And I'm, like, so kind of talk to us a little bit about your progression, and kind of like, explain, I mean, for a non-technical person, kind of where you are kind of now, and kind of how that's kind of come to where you are now.
Yeah. So in 21, whenever that all happened, I mean, it was all Bitcoin, right? But as soon as it happened, I was like, well, I probably need to know about this. Like, if other people are wanting it and ransomwaring me for something like this, I should probably know about it. So I immediately printed off the white paper. That was the first place I went. And I didn't understand it. I just read it, right? Like you would read a novel in another language. You just don't really understand what you're reading, but you kind of like, okay, all right. Like, I can like get the gist of it.
Yeah.
But then what really helped me, believe it or not, understand it was jumping into crypto, because there's a clear delineation between Bitcoin and crypto. And I didn't understand that on the front end. But what allowed me to understand that was printing out those white papers of other cryptos and understanding like, whoa, wait, this one's 9 pages long, talking about Bitcoin. Like, the white paper for Bitcoin is like 9 pages long.
Okay.
But this one for a crypto is like 47 pages long. It's probably way better. And I was completely wrong. I was completely wrong. It was just a computer science rabbit hole that I had to start driving down. And I never understood the majority of it.
Hmm.
But it allowed me to start understanding how this crypto is basically a copycat
Yeah.
of Bitcoin. And it's just got a bunch of tricks along the way that brought it to 47 pages of this white paper.
Okay.
So that's what allowed me to kind of understand the difference. But more or less, it was whenever I decided that I was going to run a node. Like whenever I understood, like, I need Bitcoin and I need to be able to use this as money. Um, I understood clearly I can't trust Coinbase. I can't trust
Mm.
like a exchange. So the first thing that I did was I understood I needed to run a computer that was dedicated towards Bitcoin.
Okay.
And the minute I tried to do that for a crypto, it just all fell apart. I mean,
Hmm.
I tried to run different nodes for lots of different cryptos, and you basically need a supercomputer to run those things. I mean, they cost thousands of dollars to run a
Hmm.
node for any kind of crypto.
Okay.
I,
Okay.
I was able to do a few on my computer or on my local device or on my laptop, but
Okay.
whenever I understood that I could run a Bitcoin node and that was a tiny little USB powered computer and that's all it needed, I
Hmm.
was like, okay,
Hmm.
this makes a lot of sense. Like,
So
this
let
is
me
for
ask.
more people. So,
Let me ask you. So what I'm getting is like simple is better. The white paper for Bitcoin was only 9 pages, and for these other cryptos, the white paper is like huge, 47 pages, and it kind of you boil it down and kind of like that makes sense to me. It's kind of common sense. If you've got a great idea, hopefully it's fairly simple enough to explain in a short period of time. 9 pages is 9 pages, but still, it's not 2 pages, but I mean, we're talking, sound money, like the hardest sound money that we've ever experienced. I mean, we kind of know that now. Go ahead. Go ahead. I kind of interrupted you.
no, 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 you're fine. I think that what it allowed me to do was understand that I couldn't explain anything in 10 pages that Bitcoin could explain in 9 pages. I mean, the soundest money on earth, something that I could run on my little Raspberry Pi computer that fit in, a closet, like that wasn't a tower, that wasn't a supercomputer, that wasn't, thousands of dollars, and that everyone can run it, everyone can be involved.
Yeah.
It made me realize, like, okay, I've really got to simplify what I'm doing to be able to fit what this is doing, because this is solving some serious problems. Number one, it solved a problem for me. I had to get my
Yeah.
files back, I had to get my stuff back,
Yeah.
and I was able to make that happen and get that problem solved.
Yeah.
Granted, some hackers were the problem that actually created it, but
Right.
what it allowed me to see was something bigger and better. So,
Okay.
especially the
Interesting.
scarcity. Whenever I understood the scarcity, I mean, that unlocked the entire key for me of like, that's why they want this money. That's why they want me to use this form of payment. It
Okay.
just, yeah, it started to unlock a whole lot for me of like why I should use it, not just if I should use it, but why.
Mm, that's good. Now you mentioned the Raspberry Pi, and so for us non-technical, Bitcoiners, and pre Bitcoiners, baby boomers or whoever is non-technical, help us understand, the kind of Raspberry Pi. Just go down that for just a little ways.
Yeah, totally. So a typical, like, I'm going like this to show like a computer, right? Or some people used to call it a CPU, but
Sure.
it's basically, that the big thing that sits under your desk.
Yeah.
Whenever we stepped away from those, what it allowed us to do was not think about computers on the sense of um, CPU, GPU, and RAM, which are the main components of a computer.
Okay.
What a Raspberry Pi is simply a system on a chip, and
Hmm.
the short name for that is SoC.
Okay.
So a system on a chip is basically that exact thing, that tower condensed down into a CPU, GPU, and RAM, all compiled onto a single chip.
Okay. And
And
so let me clarify. So the CPU is a central processing unit
yep,
and the GPU is the graphical processing unit.
yep,
Do I have that right?
yeah.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
the RAM is the random access memory that it uses to communicate between those different pieces
Okay.
to be able to send both the processing and the visuals to the action, right?
Okay.
So that allows, whenever you condense all of that down to a system on a chip, an SoC, it allows for the computer to get way smaller. So
Yes.
you can think about like how big like a Mac tower, right? We used to call them that. Me and my dad, Mac
Yeah.
towers. They used to be massive, these huge machines, but
Yeah.
now they're just Mac Minis. They're these little tiny computers,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
basically the same thing. It's just not made from a company like Apple. It's made by another company, Raspberry Pi.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's a system on a chip. It's a very small, sounds like a pretty very efficient, maybe not too expensive kind of thing that if somebody wanted to run a node, they could on something like that. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, basically,
Right.
you can run any form of software on it, and the best part to think about a node is that it's essentially a service, right? Just like Facebook is a service, but it takes their data centers to run that massive service.
Right.
You can run those services locally on your machine, and then you're not relying on external parties to confirm anything for you.
Okay, this is really an interesting thing. If I could just go down a rabbit hole over here real quick and ask you this question, or just sort of make this point and kind of like, so right now, and I'm gonna kind of stay high level for the non-technical people because like we have like someone like me has a lot of time in the seat, like well, I've done a lot of different things, but Bitcoin has only been around like 16 years. So we've only, I've seen a lot of other things besides Bitcoin, but some of the younger people, it's like Bitcoin is like it's been in there for a long time in their life. But what I'm getting at is when you have a scarce asset and you want to run a node, like um how do I say this, you don't what so the purpose sorry,
You're
the
okay.
purpose of the node then is to if I understand this correctly, and you just check me if I'm wrong on this. My understanding of the purpose of the node is that it is sort of like the ledger. It is the thing that kind of keeps all the network accountable, and it keeps every transaction and all the blocks uniform across the network. It's kind of like the checks and balances of the Bitcoin's network, if you will. Do I have
Sure.
that right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's a great way to look
Okay.
at it. Can I give you maybe an analogy to kind of help with
Sure.
that? Okay.
Yes.
I know it's sometimes hard to talk in analogies, but it's
Yeah.
almost as if the node is the brain
Yes.
and the miners are the muscles.
Okay.
And
Okay. I
so,
like that.
okay. And then what that would make the internet is the blood. And so
Oh, yeah.
you can't necessarily have muscles without blood, and you can't have brain without blood. And so both of these things work interchangeably.
Yes.
Now, the brain communicates to the muscles what direction to go,
Okay.
but the muscles just move at their own pace. They don't necessarily get to, decide that I'm going to stop at a given moment. They have ATP in them and they can continue to go at the rate that they
Okay.
move. And now we're talking about a little bit
Okay.
more body like fluids, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you can understand the analogy is that's
Okay.
miners are the muscles and the nodes are the brain.
Okay.
And they store the memory of the chain inside of that. And so that's how miners connect to that.
Yeah. Okay. And so this node thing, and the reason I bring this up is because there's a whole lot of controversy and arguments and things going on in this space right now in terms of nodes and how they should be run and what's the main software that they should be running and what the qualities of that software should be. Um, and without going down that rabbit hole too far, it's just like for the common person who doesn't really understand this would say uh, that those blocks, they hold all the transactions, right? And we don't want to have stuff that isn't necessary in those transactions, in those blocks, those, right? I mean, you got to keep this simple, is what I'm trying to say. And because it's already complicated enough, it already is. I mean, you don't need to like continue to make, this monstrosity of a blockchain, if you will. Talk to us a little bit about, kind of the blockchain and why am I saying kind of those things? Because I can tell you, but I think we're on the same page about like keep it simple and those kind of things. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
I think I would just say that Bitcoin is money, right?
Yeah.
And so because Bitcoin is money, it's analogous to like someone who's trying to train for the Olympics, right? They're skilled in running. And they're not skilled in javelin. They're not skilled in the crossbow. They're not skilled in skiing. They're skilled in running. And so it's important that the runner stays focused on the aspects of running. If the runner starts getting interested in what their girlfriend thinks about how they're running, or whether or not someone's posting about them on social media of running better, or if the runner starts thinking that other people are running better than them, then they start to lose track. They start to lose memory of why they're running in the first place, right? And Bitcoin is running so that it can be money. And so it can't lose sight of the fact that it's money and that it should be used as such. The minute that it starts to delineate from that and say, well, maybe I should throw javelin and I should focus on, throwing javelin every little bit and then running because, well, if my arms get stronger, it'll make my legs stronger. It's like, wait. We're getting away from the actual idea from what you're supposed to be doing, which is running.
This is really interesting. I'll let you go on this again, but I think this is really interesting because this right here, I think, gets to the point of the distinction between Bitcoin and other cryptos, like pretty much every other cryptocurrency, because they like some of these have a reputation. They're like, this one does this and this one does that, and it's got this, and it can do jumping jacks.
Well, I think of them similar
like
gymnastics, like gymnastics, you have to be good at floor and beam and bars and all this other stuff. And so it can be good at all that other stuff and it can do all those other things. But at the end of the day, it's not good at running. Like it's not good at running. Like runners are trained at one specific thing, and that's to do one specific thing. And so if it's not making our legs stronger, if it's not making our core stronger, if it's not keeping us focused on making the distance, like if we just stop at 500 yards, we've got 1,000 yards to go. It's not doing its job. It's just
I just add to what you're saying, and that is this: if you had Usain Bolt, right, the guy who's like at one time was one of the fastest runners in the 40-yard dash or something, right? I mean, I may have got that wrong, but he was fast as heck, right? If you had Usain Bolt and he was training and all of a sudden he got distracted and he started doing something different. He started throwing javelin, he started doing stuff, and he's not training 100% on this. It's like in retrospect now in the rearview mirror, we can look back and say, Usain Bolt, man, that guy was amazing. But then he started going off the rails and like what happened, and this and that. It's like just like you said, stay focused, do what you're trained to do, keep it simple, and just yeah. So anyway,
Stay
go ahead.
stay in your 9 pages. Stay in
Okay.
your 9 pages that you've written in the white paper and just stay in that lane,
Yeah.
because you will be
Good.
able to go further. You'll be able to outlast people. You'll be able to run farther than what other people can and other cryptos can. And so these are very analogous. I'm talking kind of between myself, but more or less what I'm trying to communicate is that Bitcoin has a function. And whenever people say to me that it doesn't have an inherent value, I bought a burger today with Bitcoin. And so they can buzz off.
Right.
It
Good.
has an inherent value to me because
Yeah.
I was able to do that. And I know that other people can do that. And to take this a step further, I know that by running a node, I can empower other people to do that. So
Okay.
it's even further than just myself at that point. It's about other people. So
Okay.
that's where I get.
So I'm going to ping off this. This
Yeah.
is something I think I know what you're going to say. Tell us a little bit about the burger. Tell us, you got a story there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, today is the 16th of May, and it's Bitcoin Burger Day. So, for anyone that doesn't know, today, physically in 2025, is Bitcoin Burger Day. So, Steak and Shake announced today that they are accepting Bitcoin for all of their purchases, not just burgers, but also I saw on Nostr it's hashtag proof of shake. So Steak and Shake is doing that as well. They're accepting Bitcoin for
Great.
all purchases. So I was able to buy food today with Bitcoin that I bought previously, and that's just amazing. That's just the coolest thing ever. It's again being used for the reason that it's being used for, and that's money.
Well, it's great. I mean, this may be the first business, a franchise,
It is.
fast food franchise that accepts Bitcoin regularly now for purchases. Anytime that they're open, they will accept Bitcoin for their food.
I
This
think
is
it's
a this
I think
this
it's
is a
amazing. I'm
it is.
sold out. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
So
No doubt, no doubt. Well, you heard it here, folks. This is the place you wanna go for the first. And Logan's telling us that he just got he's got food today buying Bitcoin at Steak and Shake. So I wish I could have gone with you. We might have videoed that, but no, that's fantastic. Um,
I think it's really cool because so many people talk about the financialization of Bitcoin and how it can store wealth over time. But today, for the first time, it stored me calories. I think that's so
you know,
cool.
proof of food.
Here it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so the context of actually using it is just like this should really help people understand that. Okay, so like okay, if I'm the guy who's like okay, like so I can, so what, I can go get some Bitcoin and I can buy a hamburger. What's the big deal? And it's like, well,
Well, it's the fact that you can buy Bitcoin today at 100,000, and you can buy a burger today at 100,000. But if you bought today at 100,000 and you saved it till it's 500,000, now you can buy 5 burgers, not just one burger.
wait, I think you lost me. Wait,
If you bought Bitcoin today at $100,000, right?
okay.
You bought enough Bitcoin to buy you one burger today.
Okay, so
And
let's
it goes to
oh,
$500,000. It goes up 5x. It can buy me 5 burgers now for the price that I bought for one.
okay.
And so,
I think I understand what you're saying. So let's break
yeah,
this down a little bit though, because we have a Bitcoin is at around $100,000 for one Bitcoin, but
yeah.
most people don't have $100,000 sitting around in their checking account. So if you buy enough Bitcoin to pay for a burger, let's break that down because there's 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin, 100
If you want to
million
call it
Satoshis.
that.
Well, yeah, it's a decimal point part of a Bitcoin, right? So you
It can be.
purchase an it can be okay.
So have you heard of BIP 177? I'm going to take this off on a serious tangent on you, Bodie, and I'm really sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. So we're gonna go technical here. I love
We're
it.
gonna go
So
a little bit technical.
that's okay.
So technically, people
Okay.
can call Bitcoin whatever they want.
Okay.
And they can, so Sats, okay, this is, I know you, it's what you were gonna get at, and people that have watched
Yeah.
Bodie's channel are gonna,
Sure.
get at me here where they're saying, and
Yeah.
sorry to steal your words, that one Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million, and
Okay.
that would mean that one Sat is the smallest base unit, right?
Well, I don't know. Is it? I thought it actually can go smaller than a sat.
It cannot, based
Oh, it
on
cannot.
it cannot. So, and that's what makes it 21 million. That the base unit stays the base unit.
Okay.
So the base unit of Bitcoin is divisible by 21 million, right? So
Correct.
the idea is that we have 21 million Bitcoin,
Okay.
and that 21 million Bitcoin are each divisible by 100 million.
Yes.
A little bit of basic math here does us the trick of saying that there are 2.1 quadrillion
Okay.
base units.
Yes.
Now,
Right.
let me try to unpack that a little bit, because
Okay.
you can call those base units anything you want.
Okay.
The fact that you or me or some other people or 50 people or whatever call them sats is just a made up human term.
Okay.
We could all
Okay.
call them
That's
Chuck E.
fair.
Cheese tokens.
Yeah.
And we could
We
call
could
them
call them baby Bitcoins.
baby Bitcoins. We could call them wampum. In fact, let me take this, and this is what BIP 177 kind of gets at. And my point on this is
Okay.
BIP 177 states that we could just call them Bitcoin.
Okay.
So my thought here is, today my burger cost me 9,107 Bitcoin. And that is just an idea. Satoshis, right? Satoshis, these little minuscule parts of 100 million. They are a agreed upon term, but
Yes.
they aren't necessarily the only term that people can use.
Yeah. So technically, we could call them something else. I guess, fair. I'm used to calling them sats or
I
Satoshis.
know. And back to your terms. Yes,
Because, yeah.
we can totally go back to your terms and say anything that you'd like. But
And
I think that it's a very cool aspect that we could just call them Bitcoin.
yes.
And it wouldn't matter either way, because if I say I'm sending you 900 Bitcoin, you wouldn't think I'm sending you $9 million, right? You would say, well, wait. You're not sending me $9 million. I say, no, I'm sending you 900 Bitcoin.
Well, okay. I gotta, this is where I gotta go like semantics here.
That's fine.
And
That's fine.
that is, it's the perception when you're talking to someone who doesn't understand Bitcoin yet,
Mm-hmm.
and they're on the path of like, what is this thing? And how does, what I really want to like clarify is terminology. Mm-hmm. Terminology is very important to helping understand something and trying to explain something to someone else. So we kind of have to be on the same page. So if you want to buy a Bitcoin, if you want to buy a like 1.0 Bitcoin, it's right now the price is around $100,000. And my point here in bringing this up is that the perception of the new person who doesn't understand Bitcoin yet, they look at the price. That's all they're looking at is just that big number. And they're going
in dollar terms. You're right. Yes.
In dollar terms, in US dollar terms, because that's all they've ever understood. Right. Or at least, well, they could understand other currencies around the world, but if you're in the United States, really, you're steeped and marinated and historically, using US dollars. That's what you know. And I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of people that are like, man, I can't afford that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's like off-putting just because they show that number that's a large US dollar number, but in reality, it's like, oh, don't worry about what the price is. And they're like, what do you mean? Don't worry about the prices. The price is that right there. It's like, well, no, actually, you can buy if you have a little bit of money, US dollars, you can trade that for a smaller amount of Bitcoin. You don't
I mean,
have
on
to
strike,
buy.
on strike, you can buy 1 penny's worth. You can buy
Okay.
1 penny's worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you're completely right. It doesn't matter. And this is what allows the entire world to be able to accept this as a currency, is because you don't have to have $1 worth or $2 worth. Some people, $3 is an entire week's worth of savings for them.
For sure.
So this is what allows this to be something that's a lot broader than just an American money, is that now, we can purchase up to 1 penny's worth of Bitcoin, and that it's 0.00000, or you can just think about it as sats. You can just think about it as the decimal point being the actual number of Satoshi that you own. Yeah. And what I was referring to earlier is, instead of calling them Satoshi, just call them Bitcoin. Because then all of a sudden, if, for instance, my friend, I mean, God love him, he said to me the other day, I can't buy a Bitcoin because I wouldn't be able to get a whole one. And I
wouldn't be able to get a whole one.
That's what he said. He said, I can't buy a Bitcoin because I can't buy a whole one. And that discounted him from buying it entirely.
Well, so let's just
if I was able to say to him, but bro, you can buy 10,000 Bitcoin and it's only $10. And he goes, well, wait. And I said, no. Look at it different. Just put the goggles on that just talk about base units. And this is where I think it's very important to the new Bitcoiner, to the very new Bitcoiner who's coming here and saying there's 21 million Bitcoin. I've heard this a million times. It's engraved in my brain. I've heard it. 21 million Bitcoin. Let's start to make sure we're talking about base units, because there's 2.1 quadrillion base units.
So base units. So this is an interesting twist. Base units are that's fair, right?
And it's sats. To your fairness, it's sats.
Equal.
Yes, they're the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. I want to make sure the newbie knows it. We're talking about the same thing there.
And so, just to make this really clear distinction, you don't have to have $100,000 to go buy a Bitcoin. You don't have to have that much.
No,
you really don't. You don't. That's the beauty of this, is that you can stack. You can, what we call stacking, and it's the
save.
term.
You can save,
but you can save in Bitcoin in just a little tiny amounts, and dollar cost averaging it, or saving every day,
saving weekly, even
weekly, monthly, whenever you get paid, whatever amount works for you. There are some really great ways to save, and this is like these are principles that are personal finance principles that are very, very common and very it's good to know about, right? Is how to save. But you can buy any size, any piece, any part of Bitcoin that you can afford. You can purchase that, and so we're not going to get into how to custody it and how to take care of it and all those kinds of things. That's other stuff for other days, other videos. But I kind of wanted to, if you have, that's important, I think, to make that distinction, that whether you call it Satoshis or base units, of which there's 2.1 quadrillion, right? Let's not get lost in the details here, because the important thing is that we remember that this is a new technology that not a lot of people still don't know nearly enough. And that's why we're trying to help push this along right here on Bitcoin Generations, because the big, 100,000 foot view goal should be like guys like me, guys like you, guys who are heads of household. We have a family, we have wife and kids behind us. We have to preserve every ounce of wealth that we can for them, because this world is not a nice place. And the only way to do it that I know of, Logan, you can speak to this, is to invest in, save in sound money, which is Bitcoin. There isn't anything else that I know of. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. I think that I would say to that, there's two things in my life that I can fall back on of what have been sound in my life. And electricity is one of them. It's been very sound, meaning it's been very reliable, right? I wouldn't be talking to you right now if it wasn't for electricity. I wouldn't have ate my food tonight out of my fridge if it wasn't for electricity. And that's been very sound. The other thing is the internet. I have not grown up in a world where I did not have the internet. I mean, being a 90s kid, like MySpace was my life, and social media has been part of my life since I was 10 years old, basically. Right.
Okay.
So those elements of soundness where it's like, I need to rely on the internet for my connections and my phone
Okay.
calls and that's a sound technology. And
Okay.
and electricity, where I can't go a day without having my lights turned on or having my phone charged. That's a
Okay.
sound technology.
Yeah.
And these two things coming together and being one with Bitcoin creates an even sounder, if that's a word, technology, right? Where it's reliant upon those two things. However, it's dependent upon you yourself taking ownership of it and realizing that you are in control of your connections and your own electricity. I mean, that's the coolest part, I think, is that it's allowed me to see that maybe I should take more ownership in my not just my money. That's a great thing. That's a great thing to do. But I should take more ownership in my responsibility for how I gather electricity. I should take more responsibility for how many internet connections I have. Maybe my
Mhm.
phone and my internet at home are not enough. Maybe I need to have a Starlink connection. Maybe I should also rely on another type of, internet connection so that if I lose something, I can gain access to it again.
Well, Bitcoin, Bitcoin also, it goes into like so many other parts of our life. I mean, it makes you aware that, like if you're taking care of your wealth, you're taking care of your money, and you're able to learn how to store it and to take care of it and to keep it safe, right? We're talking about, I mean, the elephant in the room here is the banking system, that you really don't need the bank to do that, because the bank is kind of in the way, right? They want to take your check and they want to hold it for 2 days or 5 days or whatever they want to do.
Mhm.
And so you're taking on more responsibility to take care of your own money, but you're also, it makes you think about like, maybe I can take more responsibility to take care of my health. Maybe I can take more responsibility and I can become sort of like aware that I can, um, I mean, what are the options? I've learned a lot through this COVID pandemic and stuff, and I realize I'm taking this in a different direction. But you can, like, like the pharmacology of it all. It's like, do I really want to do that? I'm seeing all these people die after they do the thing, and it's like nobody's really talking about that. But like if I just like do
Well,
my
it's
best, I
it's
do my best to
responsibility
take
for your
precautions.
decisions. I mean, at the end of the day, what you're talking about is it's responsibility for the decisions you're making. And I
Yep.
had to deal with that whenever, to go full circle, right? To talk about how I had to pay a ransomware, right? And I learned later that it's probably not good to pay a ransomware because they're just going to be incentivized to do it again. And I had to learn, like, oh, man, I should have had another backup.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I shouldn't have paid them, like
Yeah.
these things that I didn't know in the moment, and I can't necessarily be faulted for them because I didn't know them. But now that I have the wisdom and I have the understanding, I can start to make decisions that are different, right? And
Mm.
I think the same is true in our life. When we have the wisdom and the understanding, like my family didn't know that like food dyes were bad. Like they had no clue. But whenever they gave a lot more to my brother than they gave to me, they realized they're probably worse. And that's something that now that they have that wisdom and the understanding, they don't have to do with their other kids.
Yeah.
So, and it's
Yeah.
something we can learn, but we can't fault them for these things. You
Yeah.
shouldn't fault yourself if you're listening to this for those things.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
because you use credit cards on a daily basis because you think the credit card cash back is amazing, you're not at fault for that, right? But it's just going to be better off if you use the resources you already have,
Yeah, you
right?
have options. You have some options, and it's good. It's a good thing to understand what those options are. And now people have other options for instead of saving in gold. Gold was the thing to save in for thousands of years. That was the most sound, the hardest money that there was, right? And today, are you going to go to the grocery store and use gold to buy, you know, are you going to go to the grocery store and use paper gold? How are you going to do that? It's like, are they going to give you change? Or are they just going to be like, well, we don't have any change for that. You're going to have to give me an ounce of gold for this, this load of groceries here. You're like, what? So, no, yeah, I don't think we're going backwards. And,
No.
gold's really not finite either. But, yeah, I just kind of wanted to, touch on that just for a second. But, we've got, uh, a couple other things here. You know, so I think we've kind of talked a little bit about sound money and kind of what the importance of like the common man to understand sound money. Um, is there anything? And if there's like if you're paying attention to what's going on in macroeconomics and politics and kind of what's going on in the United States right now and in the world, a lot of stuff is going on right now. So I'm going to ask you, we've talked a little bit about the technical side. Tell us, if there's anything that makes you bullish about Bitcoin. I mean, I'm not asking for a price prediction because I'm not really into price predictions. It's kind of like it's a mindset. It's a way of life kind of for me now. But what do you think?
Oh man. What makes me bullish on Bitcoin is the sheer fact that I've heard from 4 people this week. They said the exact same sentence to me. They said, I should really figure out that node. I need to get that going. That made me excited.
Okay. Okay.
And Bodie,
Yeah.
you're actually one of the ones that said that to me. So,
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more because we talked a little bit about nodes there, and that was good conversation.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about why you're bullish about like from the node perspective, because I think you had a good point there. You were running Lightning and all that.
Yeah. Consensus is controlled by the nodes. It's not controlled by the miners,
Correct.
right? And
The
so
Bitcoin nodes.
Bitcoin nodes, consensus is controlled by the nodes.
Yeah.
And it's controlled by people who run nodes. So you can think about it similar. It's not a great analogy, but here's what I can think of is it's like the people who vote control who's in office,
Yes.
right? And the people who run nodes control what goes in a block.
Okay.
So you can think about it in that way and say, well, I want to control what goes in a block.
Okay.
And if you don't, and you just hold Bitcoin, then you're saying, well, I don't really care what goes in a block, as long as my number goes up. And what mindset is that actually in?
Hmm.
That's in fiat mindset.
Yeah.
That's not in Bitcoin mindset at all.
Yeah.
So if you think about running a node, if you've even considered it, I would strongly recommend that you do it because it's similar to voting.
Okay.
That you're taking an honest effort to go out of your way to spend resources to make your voice heard.
Good. Good. Yeah. So I think it's really important for us to remember getting off zero and getting some Bitcoin is the first step. Get
Yes.
some Bitcoin, get it. You don't have to worry about getting it off the exchange right away, but there are some exchanges that you would want to use and some that you wouldn't want to use. And I can put some referral links in the show notes so that you have the 3 Bitcoin exchanges that I use. You don't have to use those if you don't want to, but those are my recommendations because there are some that I will not name to you right now that are having some issues, if you will. And so we kind of want to like make sure we're sort of doing the best, kind of using best practices and things like that. And so that's important. But absolutely, I think the next sort of like phase 2 of a Bitcoin journey should involve considering running a node. It
Yeah.
is very important. It is very important. And so I kind of wanted to make that distinction because between when we say the word node, I think we should kind of just maybe at a high level, very simply, kind of explain the Bitcoin node as we've explained that, but maybe explain, like layer 2 and Lightning just a bit, and because that could involve a node as well, but it's a different kind of node, and I don't want to confuse people, but I think it mentioning layer 2 and Lightning is as for moving smaller amounts of Bitcoin quicker. I think
So the
that's a
way
good
I
idea.
delineate that is very simple. It's like when you run a Bitcoin node, you're running Bitcoin, right? You're running either Bitcoin Core or Bitcoin Knots. Those are typically the 2 implementations. There's a few others, but there's the 2 main implementations that you're running to download the entire blockchain, right? The entire 900 gigabytes of the record of the transactions. That's a Bitcoin node. Whenever you think about running a Lightning node, that's just an extra additional piece of software that allows you to create a contract. And the contract is very simply between 2 people. Let's say between me and Bodhi, for instance. We would create a contract that says, hey, I'm going to let you have access to moving Bitcoin quickly between me and you. And if at any point I want out of the deal, I can get out. And if at any point you want out of the deal, you can get out. But we're going to keep record of whose is whose along the way. And then whenever we want out, we're going to agree that we want out. And that's essentially a Lightning node.
Okay.
What that allows is for, again, like you said, that rapid sending and receiving and that record
Mhm.
keeping, because it doesn't rely on the entire 800 gigabyte, all the nodes blockchain. Okay.
Right.
That's layer
Right.
1. Layer 1 is
Yeah.
miners, it's node runners, it's everyone involved making the consensus rules.
Yeah.
Whenever it's a Lightning channel and it's additional software, again, you don't need to go here, but you can. Whenever it's a Lightning channel, it's essentially a 1 of 2 multi-signature agreement that is
Yeah.
just between one party and another that say, we're going to keep record of what's going on here. And
Okay.
we're going to constantly keep record nonstop. And I'm going to keep my node on, and you're going to keep your node on. And if one of us falls off and I'm still keeping record, I'm probably going to close. I'm probably going to get out. And you're going to have to pay that fee if I get out because you went offline.
Okay.
So that's essentially what that means is
Mm.
that, we both agree to keep our nodes online. We both
Okay.
agree to keep continually updating our balances
Okay.
on this channel that allows us. And I'm doing this motion with my hands because it's constantly online. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, oh, one went offline. well, I can choose to stay on until he comes back on, and then we're cool. We're
Yeah.
cool. We're good. And then if one falls off, I can dip. At any moment, I can just leave and I can go back to main chain and I can get my transaction confirmed and I can have my sats back.
Okay.
And that's essentially what Lightning is. And that's layer 2. And so I hope that gives a high level of kind of what that is.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good. And when you get to where you want to go to Steak and Shake and you want to buy a hamburger, you've got lots of different choices on different kinds of wallets that you can use that are Lightning wallets that are specifically for that kind of spending of Bitcoin.
And you can only do Lightning at Steak and Shake.
Yes, absolutely. They won't accept anything on chain, right?
No,
because
they won't
there's
accept on
fees
chain.
and things associated with that.
And a 10-minute wait period.
Right.
Up to a 10-minute wait period.
So okay, question. The transaction today, buying your meal, was it kind of like tapping your card, like the one that you use from the bank?
It was quicker. It was way quicker.
Was it?
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. Yeah, no, I added it to the cart. I hit checkout with Bitcoin. It showed a QR code. And then I pulled up my Zeus wallet and scanned it. And the funds went, directly from my node, directly to Steak and Shake's infrastructure. I don't know who they use, but directly to them. And it confirmed right away.
Yeah.
I mean, it was instantaneous. It felt like.
Nice.
And so I couldn't believe it. I thought it was the coolest thing. But
did you have anybody with you? Did you have your wife or kids with you?
No, it was just me. Yeah, no, it was just me by myself. My wife doesn't eat fast food, and I think I was a little judged, by the way, because it was fast food. But it's okay. I don't blame her. Right. It was the first time I've eaten fast food in 2 years. So, thankfully they had beef tallow fries, but I'm pretty sure that the bread still had seed oil in it. So I'm not hating myself. Okay. I think it's okay. It was fun. It's a once in a blue moon kind of thing. So,
well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the first day, it's kind of like Bitcoin pizza day, sort of, but it's like the Bitcoin hamburger day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, what's exciting about this is like, this is not just a static thing. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in the space. There's a lot of news that's coming out. There's a lot of really good reasons to be kind of paying attention, like what's going on here. Do you have any kind of like anything you would like to, what would you like to kind of like, if we were going to wrap this up soon, what would you kind of like to talk about? Anything you want to shill, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that first thing I'd like to say is that Jesus is a real person. He loves and cares about you, and he has a plan and a purpose for your life. And that if there's nothing else that you get from this podcast, just know that you can pray and ask forgiveness and he'll forgive you. And the hardest part is not accepting his forgiveness, but it's forgiving yourself. And it's my prayer that as much as Bitcoin's cool, that you can find out that it's not your savior and that Jesus is. That's the first thing I'd like to shill.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess
that's a good one. Praise God for that one, man. I'm right there with you. Thank you.
Totally.
Keep going.
Yeah, I think the next thing is if you're new to this journey, just know that we've all been there. You're not dumb. There's nothing you can't learn. And along the way, I know I've talked about some crazy stuff, but I did not know any of this 4 years ago. And that's a testament to just what the human can do. And sure, I had some technical knowledge and I've ran a studio for a while and you heard my story at the beginning, but it's very difficult to teach someone something that's been out of high school for more than 1 year. But if you've been out of high school for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years, it's probably going to get easier for you to learn it rather than harder. It's harder whenever you just get out of school and you're like, I don't have to learn anything anymore. I'm good.
A little attitude there too.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So I want to just encourage people that are further away in this journey of like, oh, I can't learn this. There's no way I can understand this. That like there totally is, and it's a lot easier than you think. And that you have the skill sets, and it's about what you do with them that allows you to have purpose. And if you feel like you're lacking in purpose, it's probably because the skills have just been slept on for a little too long. And it's time to start activating those a little bit, just like you did in school, and just start grinding the gears and getting it learning, because the best way to learn is by making mistakes.
Yeah.
So, I full transparency, when I ran a Bitcoin node, I did not put Bitcoin on that thing for more than a year. I just let it run because I was terrified. I was terrified to put anything on it. And I wish I would have now. I wish I would have known a lot more than what I did. But it's important to just learn it and go step by step and just understand it along the way.
Yeah.
And I do have a website as well. It's BTC for plebs, PLEBS, and it's FOR. So BTC FOR PLEBS.com. And that website is just a free resource for anyone that would like to learn the basics of Bitcoin. And it also has some contact info for me as well.
Wonderful. Hey, yeah, I resonate with that a lot. Like one of the things that I'm always telling people, especially the older folks on the that watch the channel. Hopefully there's some older folks, so they've been referred to us over here because, I just like hey, you can do this. You can do this. This is not that hard. Okay, we were here. The guys my age, gals my age, we were here when the internet came out. Like. I haven't told you that story, but I was in the Silicon Valley, like right before the internet came out, and then I moved on with my career and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we've seen some things. We've seen movies before that were very similar to Bitcoin. So the fact that it's money, it's like, okay, we have to learn how to like get bank level security through encryption and stuff. Okay, we could do this. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, well received. Thank you, Logan. Thanks.
If you signed up for a Facebook account and you've put anything on Marketplace and you've communicated and sold that thing on Marketplace, you can do Bitcoin. Okay,
I love it.
It's not hard.
Yeah, yeah, man. That's a great analogy. I like that. Yeah, for sure. Like you got something you want to sell. Well, it'll sell if you put it on Facebook Marketplace. It's like where everybody's selling stuff, right?
Yeah. You can do this. You can learn this. It's not the end of the world.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Thank you, Bodie.
Now you all know why I wanted Logan to come on, because he's like talking like real stuff here, so some common sense. Yeah, Logan, it's great. We're gonna have you back on. You just keep your phone on, and we'll be seeing you again soon.
Sounds good, man. I'll keep screaming.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, thank you so much again for coming on, and thanks for watching Bitcoin Generations, everybody. Throw a question in the comment section. If you want to give us a like, you can subscribe, whatever works. If we're bringing some value to you, you can show us a little love there. Actually, right over here, right next to Logan, we have a little QR code that you can scan if you want to send us a zap. If you're one of those people that already has the ability to do that on a Lightning channel, hey, no obligation. No, we don't push that except to let you know what that is there. But happy to do this. I think I am definitely interested in doing this because I want people, Bitcoiners, I want baby boomers who are going to be Bitcoiners. I want them to understand some things before they jump into this whole hog and they get scared or they're in a hurry or whatever. It's like, slow down, just do the thing and you'll get there. So anyway, thanks again, Logan. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.